Education. This meeting has been properly notified, and we are going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have any visitors or delegations who would like to address the board this evening? Hearing none, we are going to move on with the meeting, and the first things will be informational items and a spotlight on education, and we are featuring the high school robotics program, Mr. Brill and his students. So come on up. And I see you have show and tell, so it's going to be exciting.
We do.
All right.
Mr. Brill, I just want to thank you, first of all, for letting us come in and share our program with you all. This, yes, is just a subset of our high school team, but I also want to emphasize that our goal is to create a district-wide
Welcome to the 2024 First Robotics Competition Game, Crescendo, presented by Haas. 2 alliances of 3 teams each compete to score or play notes in 3 different field elements, amplify their speaker, get on stage, harmonize, and take the spotlight before time runs out. Alliances earn additional rewards for meeting specific scoring thresholds and for cooperating with their opponents. Robots start each match inside their alliance's starting zone and may be preloaded with a note. During the first 15 seconds of the match, robots are autonomous and can be programmed to leave their starting zone, play preloaded notes in their speaker or amp, and collect and play additional notes. During the following 2 minutes and 15 seconds, drivers control their robots. Robots collect notes from human players at their source and play them in their amp and speaker. Each time an alliance plays 2 notes in their amp, the human player can hit a button to amplify their speaker for 10 seconds. Notes played in an amplified speaker are worth more points than those scored in an unamplified speaker.
A human player may choose to play a note scored in their amp to cooperate with their opponent. If each alliance plays a note by hitting their cooperation button in the first 45 seconds of teleop, all teams in the match receive a cooperation point, which will influence a team's rank in the tournament. The number of played notes needed for a bonus ranking point is also reduced.
Robots are protected from contact by their opponents when at their podium, off the ground, and during the last 20 seconds of the match while in contact with their stage. As time runs out, robots race to get on stage and deliver notes through the flap and into the trap. Bonus points are awarded for harmony when robots on stage use the same chain. On-stage robots earn even more points if a human player spotlights the robots on a chain by scoring a note on the chain's corresponding microphone. The alliance that earns the most points wins the match.
there are tons of sports and stuff, you know, that do that. And like, if our team can like be like so important to someone that like that's what their extracurricular like involvement is like they want to be running things, they want to be working, and they want to like I really think, you know, this is a really cool program that can like do that. Yeah. All right. Our season. Okay. Oh yeah, last year's season. It was our second season. So no one still doesn't know what like. It was our second season. Nobody knew what they were doing the first time around. People still don't know what they're doing the second time around. But we know more, which is nice. We've got like a strong like team of like people. Like we've got really good people, and like we want to get and like we all had this goal and stuff. We're just really, because it's only our second season, we weren't really that organized to get there. So that's kind of like what our goals in the future are. Like if we can get our team organized, I think we can be really successful. Last season, veterans, you know, we have a pretty strong, like, emphasis on, like, it's us who are it's the students who are doing, like, the leading and also, like, teaching of stuff, too. So, like, when these new, like, freshmen and stuff come in who don't really know about building robots and stuff, it's the seniors and the juniors who've been here for, like, a season or two. We're able to teach these freshmen, which is it's really fun for me teaching, like, these little kids like, about robots. Well, they're not little, but, you know, 4 years ago, I wouldn't call myself little. Of course, for our second season, we have pretty limited resources, because, like, we have no baseline, which is a cool thing. We can, like, we can grow, which is nice. Like, you know, there's a bunch of these established teams who, like, have such cool systems, and, like, because we're starting from nothing, I think we can grow up to something really cool. All right, and then we've got our sponsors. These are the guys who have actually, like, helped get us the money to even get this team existing, you know, building the robot. So we included them here. Actually, something really cool with the sponsors is, like, we really like to, like, we really like to work with our sponsors. It was our first year, we actually had some parts made by one of our sponsors, which was really cool. And like they would just do it because like they were sponsoring us. They really liked our program, and that was a really cool thing to like have this big company like say, hey, we'll help you with that part that you need. We take tours of some of these sponsors, which is another cool thing. Like if you're like a freshman or something who's interested in engineering, like taking a tour at one of these like they're all like mechanical like engineering companies. Like taking a tour there is like really cool. Talking with the engineers and the machinists there is another really cool thing that we do. That's it. All right.
Nick, this has been inspiring. I had no idea that this is what's involved. And I have a couple other things, but first, could you introduce the other students?
Yeah. We got Noel here. Why don't you introduce yourselves?
Okay.
You can say what team you're on, and name and what team you're on.
My name is Noel. I'm part of both the media team, and I do a little bit with the mechanical team as well. I am in my junior year, and I would like to apologize for being late because I'm part of the school musical.
Nice.
Part of a lot of clubs.
Good for you. It's just fine.
Yeah, and then I'm Ryan Brill, tech ed teacher, and it's been fantastic working with these students. Yes, Nick is one of our student leaders, and with many students that are in this organization. We really strive to make it student-run, student-led. It's awesome seeing at these competitions that some of these teams that are run by NASA, by Caterpillar, whatnot, something breaks on their robot, and we're sitting there like, well, we don't know what to do, and so their mentors are all running around trying to fix it for them. But our team, it's a little bit finer of a balance that you have to walk, that all of these students know exactly what's going on, and it's kind of neat when something breaks on your robot and you see all these students going around and fixing everything and troubleshooting everything. It's fantastic.
And I'm Caitlin, and I am part of the electrical team, and I help out with the mechanical team as well.
I'm Forrest. This is my first freshman year, so I'm really excited. I'm part of the programming team.
All right. Well, I have to say, I love your T-shirts and this idea of RoboCats. Very clever and well done.
Can I ask a
Cooperation.
question?
Oh,
What is the 9149?
That's our team number. Yeah, that's our team number, so.
So
team has a number.
we don't get assigned a number. So we are the 9,149th team to join FRC.
Cool. I just, yeah.
and the term cooperation, that's fantastic. You need to take that with you well beyond Robotics Club and to pass it on with this idea of just be nice to each other. Just think if everyone could learn that, what a difference it would make in our world. So thank you, Ellen.
Stacy, I have a, go ahead. No.
And then I'll get you.
Go ahead, Lal.
Well, I was just curious, do you ever involve any retired engineers? I've met a lot of people lately, and I've met a ton of retired 3M engineers who live out here, and I wondered if that might be a source of funding as well and talent.
Yes. So, as of right now, I'm the only mentor trying to juggle, we're actually up to 38 students now, to be able to design, manufacture, and program robots. So any help is greatly appreciated.
That's great.
Ellen,
Oh, okay.
it's your turn.
Oh, well, all I was going to say is I echo Mike's comments. I like the branding that you've got here. Part of what you're doing is tonight here is part of what the rest of this is. So it's just all not technology. It's part of it's communicating with other kinds of people. So I really we appreciate your willingness to come and share this with us so we know what you're doing and can continue to support you. So good. Thank you.
So our best meetings as school board members are when students come, and you will be a tough act to follow for students who come after you. So thank you and good luck, and we are very excited to see what the next competitions bring for you. So thanks for coming. Yeah, and the musical too.
You're not going to be offended if you don't stay for the
Right, right. Okay, we are going to move on to reports, and the first one, Addison is our student, and you have a report?
Yes, tonight I am going to be focusing on student council. So currently I am the student council president, and I would like to share that our main goal this year is to focus on rebuilding the club. Since last year, our advisors stepped down, so we had some new advisors this year. So we're focusing on 3 key areas, which are school leadership, event planning, and community service. Our primary focus at the moment is to start brainstorming what we want this year's winter carnival to look like, including events that we've previously done, which are the Giving Tree fundraiser and then River Dazzle, which have been very successful previous years. And, sorry. As we build up membership, we're starting to organize leadership and other community service opportunities. And then, since we have so many new members this year, we're working on ensuring that everything is running smoothly and moving in the right direction.
That is such a worthy goal. Good luck. Thank you. Thank you for being here for the report and also for your work with the students. Okay, administrative reports, and we have elementary principals representing a larger elementary team tonight, and you're going to talk about your WIG and take it away.
We don't have robots, so
well,
know that is where the bar is right now. Sorry, go ahead, Stacy.
Well, you're just going to have to do the best you can. It's hard to follow.
I feel like we should have at least embedded a video somewhere too. So now we know winter will have fireworks or confetti or something.
Okay.
Rachel Mader, West Side Principal, just to reintroduce myself.
Ashley Bingenheimer, Rocky Branch Principal.
So yes, we're speaking on behalf of our whole team today. Just want to give you kind of the lowdown of where our wildly important goal is at for the year as we jump in. Likely that. I would have done the same. So just to start with our wildly important goal, our goal is that at the elementary level for all 4 of our buildings is that 100% of students will be proficient or exceed their yearly growth goal in foundational reading skills as measured by the grade level screening assessment by spring of 2027. That feels really wordy for a couple of reasons. I'm sure you've heard, but our screener is different at K3 and 4-5. That's part of that. The other piece that we were pretty passionate about as an elementary principal team is representing the idea that we wanted all students to be proficient, but for those who maybe were further away from that target, we wanted to give a goal for that as well, and hoping that they will exceed their yearly growth to try and get there. I kind of said some of that from the description, but then just to talk to you about the strategic plan links that we saw, the collaborative teaching culture focused on student learning is really important as we focus on this wildly important goal, as well as identifying and monitoring academic readiness benchmarks. And then finally, 2.6 was a pretty big tie for us as we have a lot of curricular resource changes at the elementary level.
So this is a very wordy slide, but basically it's just going over which data we're using and what it told us, what story it told us. So our main data points are the Wisconsin Forward exam, and then our FastBridge historical data from the last 3 years. So for the last few years, K5 has all used FastBridge. So we looked at trends in those, and what we saw was our academic achievement is not bad, but our growth scores haven't been super impressive, and we're starting a new curriculum or resource for ELA. So our new reading program was something we wanted to just really focus on and make sure that we're seeing results in our students based on our new program. And then also with the science of reading training that teachers are going through, the K through 3 teachers, that was also something that's going to impact some of our instructional practices. So the way that we're going to monitor our WIG, our main measures will still be our screeners, but we aren't going to have our initial screening benchmark until winter, so we don't have fresh data this fall, but we'll use that. And then we also have been able to use some classroom assessments to just kind of get some initial fall data on our kiddos and measure growth throughout the fall until we get to January. So with our new program, we have mastery checks for our grade levels that have small group reading. We do a lot of conferring and conferencing with our older students, so they're taking notes on those conversations. And then there's also student response journal entries that are tied to their independent work that we're able to use. So the growth targets and proficiency goals we'll know more about after November in-service and training with teachers. So that'll be part of our winter update as well. And then during PLCs and our with our building leadership teams, we're working on building understanding for what grade level goals are and what the lead measures are that teams have that will impact our goal too.
So this committing to our lead measure, we've spent a lot of time with all of our building staff, not just our classroom teachers, trying to figure out what ways are we all going to be contributing towards this wildly important goal and kind of moving the needle for our students. All of the building principals have really committed to that 85% or more of authentic PLC collaboration time on Thursday mornings, making sure we're really intentional, not putting anything else on the plate in the morning, but just letting teams have that authentic time to connect. Another new piece of this that's part of the lead measure is for all of our title programming, even at the Montessori, we have a new resource that is part of collaborative literacy called SIPS. Stands for Systematic Instruction of Phonics, Phonemic Awareness, and Spelling, and that's for small group targeted reading intervention. That's been a blessing in a lot of ways. To have some continuity through the Montessori and our other buildings has been great, but the group size is also a little bit bigger, so we're getting to target and support more of our students through that resource, which has been great. As Ashley mentioned before, we have a lot of universal literacy instructional changes, so we're really trying to focus on those as lead measures. The collaborative literacy resource, which is every part of literacy instruction at the elementary level, and then Kaya and the Montessori staff have been working to implement Transparent Classroom to help track some of their Montessori lessons to ensure those students are also having a strong universal level of instruction. And then I think we're all always constantly working on our student support team processes, but specifically at the Montessori, they are adopting a new process that kind of aligns more philosophically with their beliefs to make sure those students have supports in place. I think in addition to those, we also have talked about things that paraprofessionals and building secretaries and even our school health aides are doing to help move the needle, whether that's just talking about books with kids in the hallway or making sure they can help find a good fit book if they know their interests. All staff really seem to be on board.
Can I just give 2 examples of that? In EE meetings this week, Educator Effectiveness, one of the FIED teachers are working on vocabulary walls in the gym. So mine is choosing one, she's brand new, but first grade is her focus, so she's collaborating with that team, and then also making sure she's like teaching vocabulary that's related to her lessons, but hoping that's going to translate so she'll track their data. And then I think in art, they've always had literature be part of it, but they're working with the teachers to incorporate more like discussion and questioning techniques with that, and not just maybe like, when you're done, go read a book, but they're trying to include more instructional strategies related to reading. So really cool stuff that I was happy and a little surprised to hear that already in October they have such good plans. So they're excited. I think everyone's feeling like they're part of, like the paras were excited, specialists were excited. At first we weren't sure if this goal would make those people feel more isolated or if they would draw into it, and it seemed like everyone has really come together to be part of it. So
yeah, and I think just giving them the accountability there too has been really helpful. I know my office staff created a whole collection of books, so when students are waiting to be picked up by a parent, they say, hey, would you like to read a book while you wait? And then they'll talk and just ask a couple of questions. So just that really strong focus on the wildly important, I think, has been a really nice theme through all of our buildings. Just that bottom right corner to kind of track. We're tracking our PLC meetings and having conversations about how we're utilizing that time as building administrators. I know all of us have been really cognizant of trying to be in classrooms. With the collaborative literacy resource, there is implementation checklists for all of the different components. So using those to have system-wide conversations to make sure all of our teachers are successful and have the tools they need to have strong universal instruction. And then that screening data that we are all anxiously waiting for is coming soon. It really threw teachers for a loop not having that. So I think they really are excited. Just kind of the last few things to talk about, that lag data, we don't have fall screening data this year, so that is different. That's been an obstacle that we've had to just kind of work through and think through. That 100% of students growing or being proficient, I think felt really heavy for teachers until we just took away that pressure and said, we want every student to be successful, so let's get them there. And not having that starting data point, I think actually kind of helped in those conversations. They got to jump into the resource, not worry too much about where they've been, but really focus on where we want to get them. Act 20 is an obstacle in a couple of different ways, just with the capacity of the teachers at the elementary level. So we're doing everything we can as an administrative team to make sure teachers have the right tools in their toolbox. Because of that screener change, it makes it a little bit more difficult to compare data. So we know our data history is changing. And then our team time support changed historically in the elementary buildings, at least not at the Montessori, but the other 3, we had a 30-minute team time block where kids kind of were divided throughout the building to get their needs met in the best way possible. Because of the resource needs in terms of time, that's not in the schedule anymore. And I think there's just some growing pains as we navigate making sure we can best meet the needs of all of our students without that additional block of time. So we're having a lot of conversations in our principal meetings about how we're making sure math needs are being met and how English language learners are getting that time and still making sure that small group, really high quality instruction is happening for our students. So any questions we can answer for you. We will call Kate or Kai to answer them.
yeah.
It strikes me that this sounds like a lot of organization and a lot of coordination, which I assume falls on building principals to be able to do just.
Yeah. Kind of a question, more of a comment or observation. I love this. This is really good, and we got just the right team to do this. So I'm pleased that you're going ahead on this. But it occurs to me, based on when I was reading this over the weekend, on some reading I've been doing recently, that this is all aggregated data. And I think it goes without saying that we need to be careful with aggregated data that we don't lose track of those who need it, because literally you could take this goal and focus on 20% of our students who are most likely to increase their scores, not necessarily who need it, but most likely, and the rest of them stay the same, and we show progress and we meet our goal, correct? Okay, I mean, we could do that, but that's, given this team and given the approach you take, that's not what we're doing. So we're going to focus on the students who need the most help. And as we look at this, we don't lose track of the individuals in this, even though it's the aggregated data we get shown all the time and get held accountable for and all those kinds of things. So does that make sense?
Yeah, we can kind of maybe speak to that when Rachel was at Rocky Branch also. But when teams sit down and look at their data, it's by a class list. So they go through each of their kids to find their growth scores, and their targets are individually made by student. So what we'll learn about Ames is based on their baseline scores, they'll be given a growth goal, and teachers do look at every kid in their class and how much growth they've made compared to expected growth, and then target those kids who haven't made that expected growth, or that's how we kind of then do our next step after that. So we always make sure kids who are scoring below the 25th percentile have a secondary support, and if they don't, then that's what our data focuses on, that they all should, and we find something for them. So you might not, we don't bring those class lists to here, but teachers are looking by student at that.
And again, I'm assuming, if I could just follow up on one more on that, going in that direction, what that does is it, in my mind, would take some of the pressure off from the teacher, because we aren't holding the teachers accountable for increasing their aggregated scores for their class, right? Which might put pressure on a teacher to focus on getting my scores up rather than making sure everybody is getting addressed here. So given this approach, it may have varying results, but it supports and incentivizes teachers to make sure that everybody's getting addressed, right?
Yes.
That's really our goal, and we talked a lot about, I think it's easy when teachers set goal to choose a subpopulation and say this subpopulation is going to make X amount of growth. But here, it almost feels a little bit like a moving target, because we're saying by spring of 2027. So I know I've had teachers say, okay, what if they meet it this year and then they don't meet that growth goal next year? I said, that's a great question. Let's talk about it next year, because I don't have an answer yet. But it does keep our eye on the prize to ensure that our students are growing and proficient, but really that we keep them moving, which I think feels really, really nice to focus on all and have that mean all and not just say it. So that's felt really good.
What's the increment of the growth? Is it by the end of the school year? Is it by Christmas, every month? How do you measure the growth score of when you are going to figure out if you met it or not?
Typically, what Ashley and I did when we were at Rocky together is we took the year growth and we just split it when we did the 3 times a year benchmark. This year, we'll really only have winter to spring, because we only have those 2 data points. We've talked a lot about that question, though, and not really having a solid answer yet. That are we hoping just for spring of 2027? Are we hoping that from fall to winter, from winter to spring, from fall to spring? But I think the beauty of that is it lets us look at the data to ensure that students grow in every single mode that we can look at, instead of saying, well, they grew from fall to winter, but not from winter to spring. So did that meet the goal? And the answer is, well, is the student growing and successful? Because that's really what we care about. So I think I have no clear answer for you other than those are conversations we're having too, and teachers are having those conversations as we really try and pinpoint what this means when we think about instruction and instructional changes.
Because my suspicion is that children don't typically grow in a very smooth trajectory. There
I
are
wish
big
that was the
leaps. There are big leaps at times, and then maybe a little bit waiting, and then another big leap. And I imagine that's a little challenging to
And sometimes
measure.
the assessment changes, so I, again, not sure about Ames, but like for Fastbridge, first grade, their assessment looked different in the winter, so there was like an added subtest. So sometimes we had to look at, like, well, maybe their percentile went down, but there's a new assessment that was added, but Fastbridge would break it down really nice where you could then look at that and see what area they were struggling in, or, so I'm assuming we'll have similar abilities with a program like Ames Web too. So we do have time to kind of drill down and figure out maybe what is causing some of those changes.
Are there other comments? Thank you very much. It's exciting.
Yes, so exciting.
All right, David, you are up with a 90-day entry plan as a superintendent.
Passing that down. I don't need it. I have 2 quick updates that aren't on there. The first is we found out last week that the school counselors at Meyer Middle School are going to be recognized as the 2025 Wisconsin School Counseling Team Award. So that's Sam Dusick, Gary Campbell, and Jordan Seifert. I never know if it's Seifert or Seifert. I stress every time. Anyways, Jordan S. Yes, yeah, the WSCA. So we're super excited about that recognition, and there'll be more to come for the board, but we found it out, and we thought it would be exciting to share today. So that's one piece, one announcement, and then the other announcement is we should never become complacent with this, but it has happened quite a bit of late. Our marching band won the Class AAA state title. They were first place. They also took first in Best Visual Presentation and Best Color Guard. So
That was the bus coming through town.
that was the bus coming through town, and yep, and David Crail did a great job of lining that up, and we obviously appreciate all of the volunteers that create that experience for the kids. I know that's something that is a huge memory and a big piece of getting that win. So congratulations to Brian Jekyll and Alex Plum and everybody else that's involved with that, because there's a whole bunch of people. So very excited for those two quick announcements that I wanted to add. And again, we'll probably have more follow-up on those. All right, so superintendent report.
I'll do it.
You do it,
I got you.
because it's not working. I don't know what I did. I need those engineers to help me. So superintendent entry plan, so we had set up an entry plan for my new position, and that transition was really about a smooth move from one leader to the other, where we maintain that positive culture while also identifying opportunities for continuous growth. Click. 4 big goals. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's not working. It's kind of frustrating me. But anyways, 4 big goals around governance, which is really just making sure that we're supporting the learning experiences that we've been talking about so far today by effective school board governance. That's one big goal this year. Another is to look at student success and implement that 22 to 27 strategic plan. Organizational alignment, supporting our administrative team as they work towards the goals of the district, and then communication and engagement, making sure that we're finding ways to connect with students and staff and families in a positive and transparent way. And so the plan was 30, 90, 180, and 360, and all of a sudden we were at 90 pretty quick. So basically the goal that I had for 90 days for governance was to give an update on where we are at with policy review. I'm going to do that. I also had a plan to do a 90-day check-in with each school board member. There's really no way around the fact that I didn't do that, because there's the 7 you over here. Yeah. So that is a goal that we'll catch before the next one. In addition, student success, just especially last month, we really zeroed in on creating that final calendar and that strategic planning process. And our elementary team did an awesome job representing the first kind of presentation of wildly important goals and communicating that to the board, so they understand that work is happening. And then just wanted to give an update of some connections that we've made so far in the community. So let's break it down, right? Let's get to the numbers. We've adopted 11 new policies, and I should say updated, excuse me, not adopted. We've updated or revised 11 policies. We're in the second reading of 6, and tonight we'll have another 5 in the first reading. So if you look at the hundreds, we still have 14 to go. So I thought we were doing good. So my initial goal was to have everything wrapped up by 12/31, but I sit next to Mike, and I didn't want to. So we're going to take a couple more months to do it right. And you'll notice tonight, we actually is a good example of that. We had a couple more on the first read, but when we looked and dug into it, we said, look, if we're going to do this work, let's give it the time that it's due. And so a couple of those policies will come back when maybe there's only 1 or 2 policies, so we can really dig in and have discussion. So I love getting things done, but I also think it's important that the process is just as important as getting them done. So we'll try to get that done by the end of February, and then we'll move on to the 200 series. In addition, the team is looking at things within the 500, 600, and 800 series. So we've got a total of 14 that we've looked at so far. It's the same process, right? That they're putting in great effort to make sure that it's well thought out. The board is aware of what the adjustments are, the why behind those adjustments, and if we're adding a policy, why we're adding that policy. I won't take too long on this because we spent a lot of time on it last month, and that is focusing on the implementation of the scorecard, in which we took what was already there, some of the key elements of the strategic plan, and we just put critical performance indicators around them. And we identified a school board monitoring calendar that will allow us to have good, robust conversations about that. And the next few slides just summarize that work and kind of give you a target of when we would be talking about it. And so the big topics there, River Falls Learns, River Falls Works, and River Falls Connects. And so then the last piece was just to talk a little bit about communication and engagement. And so some of that is, even though personally I've been in the community for 7 years, it's a different chair and a different set of responsibilities. So we're working very hard to connect with students. Met with the Renaissance Charter Academy Student Council, hoping to go to the Student Council meeting tomorrow and meet with the Student Council at the high school. Connected with community leadership and civic organizations through the Forward Foundation, RF Community Foundation, Lions, and Rotary. Also part of the UW-RF Chancellor's Council, which is kind of an exciting time to be that because we have an interim chancellor, and so that's a good opportunity to have connections. That's a larger group, and again, that opportunity to meet is positive. And then I've been working with the elementary team and Amanda to set up more site-based interactions with families. So we've done some things in the past, and they've been really good, but maybe not had the same amount of parent connection. And so basically I'm just like, hey, can I piggyback onto some other stuff that's taking place? And maybe we would have an audience there and find a time either before or after something to have some conversations and get feedback where naturally those families would already be there. So that over the next month to 6 weeks, that will include attending or connecting before or after PTOs in the mornings when they have math with muffins, at parent-teacher conferences, and then the one I'm most excited about, the gingerbread house night. Hopefully I get to judge or eat or something with that. But those activities are positive, and really it's about connecting and engaging and meeting families where they're at. So that's kind of my update. Are there any questions?
You've been busy. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to action items. And the first items, if anyone wishes to have discussion, we should pull that because what we're going to be doing is taking the motion in a second and then voting. So is there anyone who would like to remove an item? All right, then at this point, we have before us the September 30th regular Board of Education meeting minutes. We have bills that have been submitted for payment, as well as recommendations regarding employment. So at this point, is there a motion to approve minutes, bills, and employment as presented? Thank you, Lindsay. Is Allison, all those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. All right, Ellen, I'll turn to you for an update on education and program, and then we can take those recommended actions.
Okay. The committee met on October 7th, and we had some very good conversation. First off, we had 2 course proposals presented to us, new course proposals from English and Language Arts Department, Career and Technical Writing and Advanced Creative Writing. We had a good presentation on those, asked lots of questions, learned more about those, passed and approved both of those to come onto the board. We got a 30-day update from our co-directors of academic services on our goal updates, very informative, as was the Act 20 update. Act 20 is the new legislation that changes a variety of things in our curriculum, and there are lots of implications to that, so we had a good update and discussed that.
Related to reading.
Related to reading, yes, right, thank you. And then we heard a preliminary field trip for a proposal for a trip to Lanesboro, Minnesota. And there was a proposal for a natural resources course that's moved to the next meeting, where we'll also probably have 1 or 2 more new course proposals to discuss and deal with. So good discussion all the way around. So I would move the approval of both the advanced creative writing and career and technical writing courses as we heard at the committee meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Allison. Discussion? Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. All right. The Personnel Committee met on October, was it the 4th? 14th. And during that meeting, Nate provided us with an analysis of all of our class sizes for grades K through 12 across the district, and then compared them with our class size guidelines. As is typical, there are some classes that are either larger or smaller than the guidelines suggest, but they're largely at the high school, and they are the result of needing to accommodate student needs and interests, their schedules. So we understand that. There was discussion about needing to review the Renaissance portion of the class size guidelines so that they reflect the current programming that we have at Ren, so that's a coming attraction for us. We also discussed that staff retainment is a significant concern for the committee, so we reviewed an analysis of certified and support staff retention. Nate had a lot of data for us, presented in very nice graphs. One of the things that's pretty clear is that for certified staff in particular, it's clear that the first years are really critical in terms of retaining them, which is one of the reasons that you're going to see in just a moment that we are revising our mentorship program, helping to impact that. But it's also important to realize that although we really never like to lose good educators, we do have a number of certified staff members who left to become administrators, which is really a nice thing for our district because it says they've received really good experience when they're with us. We also discussed compensation for the new core mentor program. As a reminder, we've long had a core mentor program for new teachers, but we are revising it now so that it will be fewer mentors, but they will have a deeper, more comprehensive background in terms of being able to support new teachers. There will be a modest increase in terms of the expense for this program, but it seems like it's really worthwhile in terms of supporting our newest teachers, which hopefully then impacts retention because they feel supported and able to carry on. We also reviewed the 2025-26 school year calendar, which I always say it feels like we do that a lot. There's always a new one. There will be some additional dates added at a later date for teachers and staff, but this calendar allows families and the community to be able to plan. And then finally, we went into closed session and we discussed salary adjustments that will take place in 2025-26 for selected certified staff members. So that's what we did. Any questions about that or added? Nate, do you want to add anything? Okay. Then at this point, I will move that we approve the core mentor compensation plan. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Alan. Questions or comments about that? I'm really excited about this. I think that this is going to be great for our new teachers. I also think it's going to be a wonderful leadership opportunity for our experienced teachers and to share their breadth of knowledge. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. And now is there a motion to approve the 2025-26 school year calendar? Thank you, Lindsay.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried, and now I will turn to you, Mike, for
All right.
Finance and Facilities.
Also on the 14th, we had our Finance and Facilities Committee meeting. The first order of business was to review our projects that we're working on through our referendum. We're making good progress. We have moved our first dirt in the district. We've got our tennis courts over at the high school. They've started that project and have made some good progress there. So that's kind of the first thing that you kind of see. We also went through the update on the high school with the multi-purpose plan. We had members, people from Kraus Anderson were here, and Bray Architect joined us on the phone, gave us some schematics of what it will look like. And so our committee is working hard to get those plans, those construction plans out within the next 6 weeks or so that we will have out, and then hopefully have bids back shortly thereafter, and we'll know kind of where we're going to land as far as our finances on those projects. We're also making progress at the elementary and middle school with some of those projects, a lot of the mechanical and those kinds of projects. And so we're working hard on those, and they're making good progress and hopefully having some success with our bids. So they were able to provide us with some schematics of what the buildings would look like for both the bus garage, which is also in that kind of that phase where we're getting close to getting the construction. The design has been completed or close to completion, and the bids will be going out within the next 4 to 6 weeks. So making good progress there. We had a budget update, our monthly budget update. We came, nothing surprising or out of the ordinary there. We're tracking along. The budget kind of runs in cycles where revenue's in. We'll see a big spike after the first of the year once the property taxes have been paid. So it kind of follows the same pattern every year as far as expenses and revenues in. So there was nothing out of the ordinary. So we're tracking. So we did approve the purchase. We had a bus purchase. As we do, we cycle through and purchase buses on a regular basis and kind of shuffle out the old buses and put those out into storage that we use for parts. And then we also purchase new ones. So we approved the purchase at the committee level of 2 buses, a 72 passenger. Was it one? It was just one bus though, right? It was 2, right?
And one with storage,
Right.
wasn't it?
No, not with storage. So we approved the Nelson Bus Services bid for $138,573 to buy 2025 Thomas 72 passenger buses. They're stock buses. I think one of the things we had happen last time, we still haven't received the buses that we ordered in last budget a year ago.
Yeah, one bus.
One bus. It was just one bus.
Yes.
But we haven't received that yet because it was kind of a non-stock type bus. So
Right.
we're going to actually receive these 2 new ones before we'll get the one that was purchased last year. Correct?
That
We're
is
good.
my understanding
Right.
as well, yes.
Those are budgeted items, things that we knew were coming, so, and it fit within our budget. So the last thing on our agenda was just to look at our student enrollment that came in kind of as we planned. We were pretty close. Our 3rd Friday count in September. We have 55 members.
So if you're talking FTE?
Yes.
Yeah, so when we talk head count, so total number of students that we're educating was 39. And then when that goes through all the filters for how they're funded through FTE, all of that, then our membership count that's used for revenue limits is the 3355.
3355, sorry, I think I said 3555.
Yeah.
Wishing for 200 extra students, so 3355, which was within kind of the area we thought. I mean, we budget, we guess, but until we get that 3rd Friday count in September, you don't know exactly what your numbers are going to look like. So, and I know we're going to be going through our levy tonight, so we can talk about that. So that was kind of the last thing. No surprises with our enrollment this year. So
Do you want to make a motion, Mike?
I will make a motion to approve the bus purchase.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you, Bo. Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. One of the responsibilities that a school board has on an annual basis is to set the tax levy and approve the budget, and that's what is in front of us tonight. I'm going to turn it over to Lynette, and I'll ask you to start with the budget. We'll take that action item first, and then we'll go to the tax levy.
Great. So as Stacy mentioned, according to Wisconsin state statutes, school boards must adopt an original budget at a school board meeting scheduled after the public hearing, or what we often refer to as our annual meeting and budget hearing. So it has to be after that and no later than the meeting that you set the tax levy at. So we're going to do that as well tonight. Since Since the date of the public hearing or annual meeting, we've had key pieces of data come in. As I've mentioned many times, we're still waiting for that. We're still waiting for that. So although it may seem a little counterintuitive to hold a public hearing on the budget prior, this really is the norm and how it's the environment that we live in with just the timing of that key data. So with that, we've had equalized property values were certified to school districts on October 1st. And then our pupil count reports, as we went over at the finance meeting on last week, Monday, those were due from districts October 2nd. And then state aid was certified on October 15th, so just less than a week ago. And at the same time that DPI certifies the state aid, they also released the revenue limit worksheets, which we went over a couple weeks ago. I kind of ran through all that with you. So we've got a nice fresh one with all of those variables added in there. And what's important about all of that is all of those variables have a direct impact on not only the district budget, but also the levy. So now that we have all those, we work with those. So in total, if we go back to talking about the equalized property value, the property values within our district area increased by 6.27%. Over last year, while the state average was actually a little bit above that, which is a little bit unusual for River Falls. In the past, I think they've been above state average, right? So state average was approximately 7.7%. So we were just below state average this year. For pupil membership FTE, and that's kind of what Mike and I were just talking about, we have our head count, and then when that gets filtered down, what we have is our membership FTE. And the 3-year average, which is what's used in our revenue limit, increased just slightly from last year. And we kind of talked about that last week as well. So that's the other piece. And then we have our state aid. And when that was certified last Tuesday, although it was down about 109,000 from the estimate in July, it was actually increase over last year by about 282,000. So we did see an increase in state aid this year. And if you remember, increase in state aid doesn't necessarily mean that districts have more money to spend, because that's what we talk about, the revenue limit, and that's made up of state aid and tax levy. So state aid, when you hear increase or decrease, that really just means that shift between tax levy and aid to make up the whole of the revenue limit. How much did that increase? About 282,000 over last year, and I will say that a large portion of that was due to an adjustment of last year's aid. So every year when the aid is certified on October 15th, there are still numbers that are coming in from school districts, and we've had some conversation about a very large district in the state whose reporting of previous year variables were still coming in right throughout the year. So then when DPI has all that data after the state aid is certified, they rerun that, because state aid is a big pot of money. And so when that pot is shifting amongst all 420 school districts, there is then an adjustment, and that's placed on your aid for the following year. So we did receive an adjustment, an increase. The previous year it was a decrease because of whatever was happening with other districts and that pot of money. So like I said, a large portion of that increase was actually an adjustment for last year. So as far as our budget updates, so let's get into the budget. You've got the 4-page budget document. That is also what we present at the annual meeting. It's been updated now. And since then, some changes in our Fund 10 and Fund 27, which is really where we do most of our operating from. Some of the changes are due to our open enrollment numbers. Ins and outs changing. We continue to update our salaries and benefits, our compensation as we're hiring right before the beginning of the year, and then of course our state aid and some of our grants. I would really consider those minor changes, and our estimates were really fairly close, within 0.5 to 1%. As far as Fund 21, 41, 49, and 50, those have all remained the same as they were presented at the annual meeting. For Fund 39, which is our debt service fund, that's where we levy for our referendum-approved debt payments. The only adjustment there was a slight adjustment to interest earnings, and that was just based on what rates are looking like this year. Otherwise, everything else in there is the same. And then Fund 80, we had some slight adjustments to both the revenues and expenditures based on changes in fees and compensation. So we are again presenting a balanced budget for the general operating funds. And as many of you who've been on the board are aware, we monitor those budgets throughout the year because, again, these are budgets. So we like to keep our eye on those throughout the year. We provide monthly reports to the Finance Committee, looking at those. And then we typically propose revisions to the budget at fiscal year end.
I think we'll take a motion on this before we move into the tax levy. So at this point, is there a motion to approve the 2024-25 budget as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Mike. Is there a second? Thank you, Allison. Questions or comments?
I was just going to comment, if I understood you correctly, I think you said you were, in your estimation, within 0.5% to 1%.
Correct.
That's remarkable.
It is remarkable. I was
And
going to
so
make the same point.
I want to
Yep.
recognize that work and all of the projections and working with your team. And I mean, that really is wonderful. And it certainly makes it easier for us to move forward, knowing that we could anticipate what these numbers were going to look like. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
Very
thank you.
good point.
We have a good team.
Anything else? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried, and now we will move to the tax levy.
Okay.
Lynette?
So similarly, Wisconsin statutes require that on or before November 1st, a school board must determine a tax sufficient to operate and maintain the schools for the school year. So as we've discussed, the equalized property values, state aid, and total revenue limit all impact our levy and mill rate. So what we've provided here is an updated page from the annual meeting booklet. So you might recognize this page. We had an estimate in there in the annual meeting booklet back in September. We've now updated that to reflect the proposed 24-25 levy. So what this shows is the equalized value of property within the school district boundaries, and these numbers are given to us by the Wisconsin Department of Revenue. This also shows a portion of the total equalized value that comes from each municipality. So you can see that the percentage of the whole by municipality, that at least what lies within the school district boundaries. And then the levy amount in the far column is what we would be certifying to each municipality. So we've also got information there broken down by levy and mill rate by fund. So both levy and mill rate by fund, as well as the total levy and the mill rate. And then the second page that was provided tonight gives a comparison of this year's proposed levy and mill rate to last year's. And this is kind of small on the screen, but if you have the document in front of you, what you'll notice is that municipalities' percentage of the tax levy total actually fluctuates every year. And that's based on those values that are provided to us from the Department of Revenue. So some are up and some are down, and it's not something that the district determines or has any control over. So we receive those figures from the DOR, and then we're responsible for applying and certifying the levy in accordance with those values. Yeah. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, so on occasion, districts will receive a notification from a municipality, from one of the counties that says that they were unable to collect some taxes from property owners. And so they are charging, they've already released the funds. The counties have released the funds through the tax levy to the districts, and now we have to pay them back. Okay, so the district sends the funds back to the municipality. However, we then add that back on, we can pass that back on to our levy in the following year. So we're charging it back again because it was never collected. Sometimes it's $500 and sometimes it's what you're seeing there, almost 12,000. It just, and sometimes there are none, so it just fluctuates. So to go back to the comparison, I just wanted to show that, so we've got the 2 years there, and then the other smaller chart is just showing the change over the year in both the value, the percentage of value, and then the actual levy, and then the increase in the percentage. And what I just wanted to point out is if you go to the bottom, that bottom corner says the increase in our levy is 12.7% in total. But if you look at each municipality, it really is different by each of those, and that just has to do with that shift in how the share is distributed. And so that's really why districts speak, communicate, discuss in terms of the total levy, the total mill rate as a whole, rather than trying to answer what is going to happen to each person's tax bill.
Is it reasonable, Lynette, to say that if the increase in the levy is going to be 12.7%, but the increase in the equalized value was 6.27%, that probably what people are going to see in their taxes is a 6% increase, but it's not equal everywhere, obviously.
Yeah, what we like to say is that's the average, right? That will be the average over all of the properties within our district, and only the school levy portion, right? There's so many other there's
Other
3 to
elements.
4 other pieces of your
Township.
tax bill. So
But
we
the
really just
portion due
speak
to
in
school, it looks like if you go down the list, it's pretty much across the board around 6% in each area. You know,
for the increase in their property values.
increase in their property values and then increase in the levy, there's about a 6% difference there.
You have to keep a track of how that was obtained. Was it new construction or was it a reassessment? And that might play
Might
into
change
what-
how high the taxes are.
Exactly. That's why there's a lot of variables that go into to digging that out.
Yeah, it's complicated.
All right, at this point, is there a motion to approve the 2024-25 tax levy as presented? Thank you, Lindsay. Second. Thank you, Allison. Questions or comments? Again, well done getting your estimate to match up so well. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. All right. Now, one of the things that we need to do tonight is to empower one of our board members to vote on our behalf at the Region 4 WASB Board of Directors election. So we are going to, the recommendation is that we empower Alan to vote for Alan on our behalf on Wednesday. So, at this point, is there a motion to approve a board member to cast a vote on behalf of the entire board for Alan Tuchtenhagen for a Region 4 seat on the WASB Board of Directors? Thank you, Mike. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Thank you. Monica? Questions or comments? Thank you for doing this. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? You'll make sure to put the right name down. All right, good, good. We also now need to appoint a deputy clerk for the 2025 school board elections. So is there a motion to appoint Amanda Taylor as administrative assistant to the superintendent as deputy clerk, election clerk for the 2025 school board elections?
So moved.
Thank you, Ellen. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Thank you, Monica. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Amanda, for doing that. Hopefully you don't have to stay up too late again. All right, we have some first readings of policies before the board tonight. And so, Dave, I'm going to turn to you to walk us through the recommendations regarding these 4 policies, please.
We tried to have a setup. It worked. That's awesome. We tried to have it so it can be posted so people are following along if people are following along at home, they can see the policy work that we're doing. So the general message for this month's first reads is that they are very minor changes, but we still wanted an opportunity for the board to review these policies and ask questions or make suggestions if they need other adjustments. But as a admin team, we're not recommending substantial changes. So the first one is policy 171, regular school board meetings. Again, really just updating language. Are there any questions on that policy? There we go. Policy 171.1 is public notification of school board meetings. Again, not a large change. We did update it to Patax Family Market, make sure we got the correct name on that, but we didn't change the actual location to that. That's not highlighted, so that's why I wanted to make sure that people are aware of that. Are there any questions on public notification?
One of several places that we posted
It's
at.
just one of several places, yeah. And I think it's a.
Tradition.
Well, and I think it goes back to that's a common place where people know that that type of information is shared. And so for people who don't go to the website to look for that information or who can't afford to buy the paper, it's a spot for them to go, and it's a very common spot that they know.
So we don't, like, the state bank doesn't get sad that it's at the First National Bank.
We're good. We're not recommending any adjustments to that, Allison.
I don't care, I guess, but I'm just.
Okay. Is there any requested adjustments?
No.
Thank you, Mike. Again, small adjustments, but I guess the important piece though is that we're going through and we're looking and adjusting that. The next one is consent agenda, which is 171.3.
You missed 171.2.
I got excited. Okay, 171.2 is agenda prep and dissemination. No recommended adjustments. Are there any recommended adjustments from the board? Okay. The next one is consent agenda. And so we have a consent agenda. I think the big piece with the consent agenda is these are routine, non-controversial items that require no discussion. But it should be stressed for individual board members as they review the agenda and the information, if they want to pull any item out, that they have the authority to do that, and they should. And then the committee or the board, in this case, the school board, could have that conversation. Are there questions on the consent agenda policy, Reed? Okay, so those are the first readings of those items. And again, there were a couple other that we looked at, and just in looking at them, we thought those policies we should take a little bit deeper look at, so that's why we pulled them out. So we got an easy group this year, or this month.
So at this point, is there a motion to approve first readings of revised school board policies 171, regular school board meetings, 171.1, public notification of school board meetings, 171.2, agenda preparation and dissemination, as well as policy 171.3 related to consent agendas? A motion? Thank you, Bo. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Allison. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. And now we are going to look at the second readings for several policies related to finance. And so, Lynette, are there any substantial changes from the first readings?
There have been none.
Okay. So then at this point, is there a motion to approve the second readings of revised school board policy 611, fiscal management, 652, investment income, 653, gate receipts and admissions, 662.1, student activity funds management, as well as policy 662.3, fund balance?
So moved.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is there a second? Thank you, Alan. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried, and now we will look at another batch of second readings, and I'll ask you, Nate, are there any substantial changes to any of these policies from the first reading?
No changes.
All right, so then, before the board, is there a motion to approve the second reading of policies 523.11, school bus driver alcohol and drug testing, as well as policy 533.1, criminal background investigation, as well as policy 860, visitors to school district buildings. Motion? Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Ellen. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. And now we have another batch of first readings. So Dave, these are seconds? Oh, that's right. I apologize. All right. So do we have substantial changes there? Really only something on 164?
Right, so there are no proposed changes to any of the policies except for 164. And the only language add there is really just a clarification, and that is that we added alcohol purchases may not be charged to or reimbursed by the district. That was a recommended update from first to second. It aligns to current practice, but we just wanted to make sure that people are aware of that. So that's the only addition, so we don't see a need to bring that back for another second reading. We feel like we can get it approved here tonight.
So at this point, is there a motion for second readings of the following policies? 153, evaluation of school board operations. 161, school board member authority. 162, new school board member orientation. 163, school board conferences, conventions, and workshops. 161.1, school board memberships. And the
163.
163, sorry. It's a lot of them to read. It's a good thing I'm not a math teacher, right? And then policy 164, school board member compensation and expenses. Motion, please.
Second.
Thank you, Bo. Thank you, Mike. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. All right, everybody. Now, do we have any proposed items for future agendas? All right, then we're going to schedule meetings. So, educational program will meet Monday, November 4th at 6. Finance and facilities will meet Monday, November 11th at 6. Personnel will meet Monday, November 11th at 7 or immediately following finance and facilities. The next regular board meeting will be Monday, November 18th at 6, and we're back at 6 o'clock here. And then as a reminder, we will have the joint school board city council meeting next Monday, October 28th at 6 o'clock in the high school media center. Please, everybody, this is a good chance to wear our name tags, our fancy new name tags, so bring those. All right, we're going to debut them. All right, okay. Okay.
One quick note on that. Chartwell's Food Service, Pat's gonna have dinner, so that'll be before the meeting starts. So plan on coming at 5:45 for that, so.
All right, so everybody gather at 5:45 instead.
Grab your plate and then we'll sit down and eat, and Amanda will make sure that we stay on time.
That's your job, Amanda, okay.
And this is not a meeting, but it has to be posted.
Yeah. And will it be live?
No action, not live stream, but taped. We will do a video, and it's because of where we're holding the meeting. Yep.
The recordings will be on, probably on the city and on our.
Right. Right.
So, yeah, no action, but discussion, and it's a really good thing for I think, our community to be able to see that we are